Hey there, Maria back with another video. It is 9:21 a.m. It is March the 12th on Tuesday morning. And I just want to jump on here and make this quick video. I am kind of taking my time getting my day started. I was in deep meditation all morning long. Of course, right? This time I was just like opening my mind. I would say I spent the last 12 hours in deep meditation. Like before I went to bed, I was also thinking and writing down some information, which I've been doing a lot of writing lately. I need to actually put these into scripts, but some of them I am working on. I'm doing so many things. I'm getting myself very busy, very focused on content, as well as digging deeper into, intuitive messages that I could use in my search of these this past life information that I'm trying to get, right? So I'm at the very start of it. I have not yet done the spiral ritual that I plan on doing yet. I will let you know how that goes, okay? But um, I did want to share some messages with you guys. I did want to say something. You know what? Cyndi Lauper, you are on my mind. Like you have been on my mind for the last few days. Okay. I'm not sure if it's because I saw you on a commercial or whatever, but I just gotta tell you, you look fucking amazing. And like I think that you have a really great vibe, and I can like feel it from here, so it's really cool. So anyway, I wanted to kind of go into the messages that I've been getting. Um, I have been thinking a little bit beyond the issue of uh, ex family members, ex co workers, people who abused me in the past, which I could lump all of those people together, right? Um, and I've been actually thinking more about, of course, my existence, okay? It is a very um, strange one, obviously. And I myself noticed this, okay? Um, for many years, I wondered, why is it that I've dealt with so many setbacks, just ridiculous setbacks. That at one time in my life, because I dealt with so much bullying, I didn't take it personally. I knew that I was dealing with something abnormal, like whether it's racism. A lot of it was racism, of course, and a lot of it was sex. And then, yeah, like I told you, people just did not like me, period. So they would find some reason, religion, whatever. Okay. So now that I understand what this is all about, it does open my eyes. Okay. I do appreciate the act of um, love that my father showed by bringing me into creation through this experiment. Sometimes we don't always know the details of how things are going to pan out, and I honest and truthfully do see that there was some sort of curiosity that I had in my afterlife before I came back to Earth. Okay, I don't fully understand the entire process, but little by little, I'm starting to gain more information on how things work on those levels. Okay, so this is my whole thing right now. Okay, and I will say by delving into these past life pursuits, it's better for me because, like I said, it helps me distance myself from the pain of the aftermath of all this. It has been a nightmare for me. I'm going to turn the heater off. Okay. It has been a nightmare for me. So I was thinking that, oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I understand a little bit about why I would come back here. Um, I have shared my feelings on, the earth and how, I have dealt with a lot of abuse throughout my entire life, and it seems as though there was a platform because of my existence. That platform was, um, not made out of creation. The creation, my creation, was not made from love. Okay, and I was surprised of that because a lot of people, are born and conceived without love. Sometimes people just get together willy nilly and they create an offspring, right? Not because they really love each other and they want to create and merge, I don't know, cells or whatever, and create a human and have like grand plans for them. You know what I mean? A lot of people are resented. They're brought here, they're resented by their families, whatever. I would say my story is unique because of the tragedy of, someone innocently thinking that, you could just, bring someone back and there not be any sort of negative consequences for this sort of thing. Okay. It's a beautiful thing in a lot of ways because I have satisfied my curiosity because the message that I got last night was that that I was content but adventurous in my afterlife. Okay, and I chose to come back because I wanted to succeed at what I perceived the idea of earthly life. Okay, so I must have been able to observe in the past about what it was like for me to exist opposite of how I was existing. Like, obviously the Prince Alamehu story seems extremely tragic. Extremely. Okay. About a boy who is distanced from his homeland and living a different way, adapting and appreciating certain things, okay? Because I obviously love English stuff. I love it. Love it. Okay. But still never felt completely adjusted, possibly socially, whatever. Okay. So obviously, dying at the age of 18, I was not even able to step out and even try to do anything. And mind you, even if I had the ability to do so, how would someone like me of color be able to advance themselves among people who didn't look like me? And obviously were set against me because I must have had different views. You know what I mean? Not necessarily because in this life, I don't make a big ruckus about anything. So it must have always been that way. People just don't like what's different. It's difficult for some people, okay? So I came back, you know what I mean? And a lot of people are gullible to the forces of Earth, okay? Like, like my example of what I went through is a wonderful, um, demonstration on how we are led to believe in things that end up slapping us in the face and kicking it, ourselves in the ass because of our foolish, our inability to question. Like in this case, I had a family who dehumanized me and thought it was normal. I had a community who believed that I was an evil kid. And I was one of the people who was abused because I was trying to read the Bible, trying to seek answers, right? Um, and it's funny because we live in a world of opposites. You know what I mean? And it's so twisted. And from a spiritual nature, on a spiritual level, I can see that. I can see that. It's so distorted. People, like I gave the example of people who believe in the education system. And don't get me wrong, I believe completely in having an education, acquiring as much knowledge as you possibly can. But like I said, there's a lot of people who are tripping themselves over, trying to brag about, I have this piece of paper, but they can't really prove that they've acquired any knowledge just by the way that they live. Okay, so I'm not trying to criticize anything. I'm just pointing out, okay, that what we think is the most important things in life are really just mere, like, literally props or a waste of your time. I'm not saying college is a waste of a person's time. I'm not saying that a career is not a person's waste of time. It's not. We have to have education. We have to have knowledge. Okay. I don't necessarily believe that college is the way to obtain it. Okay. But we still have to require knowledge. Okay. And we also have some sort of satisfaction in our career. Yes, that is important. Okay. So things we have to prioritize our things in life. Okay. But I've come to understand, like, there's a lot of corruption in the world. Okay. Within these institutions, there's a lot of, like, fabrication of history. There's a lot of omitting certain facts. There's a lot of limitations. Okay, just okay. For example, in the education system, I will tell you that I have been so deceived because I knew when I was younger that I didn't need a kindergarten teacher to teach me how to read. Now, there's a lot of other kids who have been able to read at a very young age. Okay, but then remember the school system cutting me down when I brought it to their attention that my son was picking up reading by the time he was 3 years old. Okay. And it is always, they want to slow that down. They want to prevent you from going out of that little box. You know what I mean? If somebody comes up with a new way of mathematics, which would be very difficult to do, okay? But there are some ways of like adding and subtracting, even multiplying, okay, that are a little different that's taught in the school system, okay? Because I remember how it used to be. If you had your own way of figuring out a mathematical equation, if you didn't do it their way, it was worthless. Same answer, it was worthless. Even if you were showing that you were far more advanced than they were, it didn't matter. Okay, so we live in a system that does not appreciate intelligence. We live in a system that appreciates blind obedience. It's a problem. Okay, I see that my desire to come back to this planet was silly and naive. Okay. Okay. But like I said, I'm aware of the suffering that goes on in the world. And I am the kind of person who believes that we have to take care of ourselves. We got to watch our own back. Okay. We do have things like family, but unfortunately, some families are not loving. They're not the Brady Bunch. Okay. And I use the Brady Bunch as a great example because it, I'm not saying people can't be happy in their families, but when most people compare themselves to this sort of ideal loving family, that's not even blood related. Okay, these are your fucking step siblings. And there's more love in that family than people that are supposed to come to your, from your own blood. Mind you, I found out later I'm adopted, okay? But still. Still, you want a well-rounded everything in your life. You want a well-rounded family. You want well-rounded knowledge. You want well-rounded ability to demonstrate. You want a good a career. You want to be able to flourish in life. Okay, and so this is what I must have tried to come back for. Okay, foolishly, because I feel as though we live in a system that is garbage. Okay, so I'm coasting through. I am broken now because like the system wore my ass down. Okay, the 9 to 5 job, the bullying that went on in the workplace, the disrespect and disregard for my need to exist and provide for a child, and just the fact that I don't even want to go that far. I'm just not. I'm just not. Okay, we're talking about the spiritual. Let's move on to the next message, okay? Because Maria just needs to just shut up about certain things, okay? Apparently, in my meditation, I'm also receiving that I had another life that I need to discover. I have lived after Prince Alamehu as well, and I do recall having these visions before. I need to dig deeper into this, okay? Like I said, past life exploration is my top priority at this time, plus writing content, okay? So when I have my time to relax, I'm thinking about past life stuff. When I'm actually doing my creation, which apparently I can juggle like 3 projects at the same time. I'm really good at that. Okay, especially if I'm fueled with things that I need to talk and express. Okay, so yeah, I'm like connecting myself or gathering information bit by bit about who I am, and I feel like it's important. Apparently, I did get the message, and I've had this message before, that flying is done in the afterlife. Apparently, I was a magical prince, okay, in my past life as Prince Alamehu. And I believe that I must have been one of those weird people who had that sort of gift. Strange it is, and it's hard for me to actually get all of that in. Like I said, I kept asking myself, you mean astral flying, like flying in the dream state? No, I actually have this message that this kid could fly. Okay, I could fly. Um, Strange, very strange, very odd. But if that's the case, then I can see why someone would want to kidnap me. Not right though. Still not right. But anyway. Past life recall. Okay. My quest is to gain access to the Akashic records, full access to the Akashic records, which I will, in this pursuit, I will be definitely sharing the information and in my attempts and my how I'm exploring my techniques and all this stuff on my YouTube channel. Okay. Patreon is for a completely different thing, but I am going to be sharing little bits and parts about my personal life and stuff like that. A little bit more on YouTube. And I'm looking forward to that. What else? Oh, another message. This was repeated. In the afterlife, you can go wherever you want just by thinking. That's awesome. Okay, that's very awesome. That means you can cut down on flying time. Okay, what else? Oh, okay. This one I thought was important, and it was kind of deep too. Okay, the concept of nature is not bound to Earth standards. It's bigger than that. Okay, so I did a lot of, I don't know, I guess soul searching. Yeah, soul searching. Because there's a lot of things that I used to think about when it came to clones. Okay, I never spent too much time on the topic of clones before I came to know that I was one. I just remember reading it. If you've read things like, David Icke or something like that, that is going to be a part of the subject matter, at least briefly. Okay. So I do remember in my mind thinking, oh, to me, creation comes from, you know, the male and the female and blah, you have a offspring. And this is what I accepted um, as the right way of coming into existence, right? And to me, the whole idea of a clone was just too far fetched. It was like sci-fi. It was like that kind of stuff that I kind of get it, but at the same time, I don't have that much of an interest in it. And I myself wouldn't want to be one. Okay, that was just it. I always wondered, do clones have souls? Okay. What I believe in my situation is that I absorb the spirit, the nature, the soul of everyone that I've been, because I've always been the same person. I am basically living in a different vessel. And this happens in the process of reincarnation, whether somebody is cloned or they are birthed what they call naturally by the earth standards. Okay, but when I had this message, I'm going to repeat it again. The concept of nature is not bound to earth standards. It's bigger than that, meaning like this is a whole dimension of different clusters of layers upon layers of different dimensions, galaxies, whatever. I don't know how I can really describe it, but it's like when you think about it on that level, it's like things really aren't that abnormal. It's not really. It's going against nature based on what we know here on Earth. Okay, but if you're like someone like me who's perceived and believed to have angelic or what they call alien origin, then it's not. Then it's not. It's like I'm basically coasting and I just landed here. Like you go to maybe somebody who lives in California, right, goes to Texas and wears one of those big hats. Okay, that's normal in Texas, right? Supposedly. Okay, this is just an example. Okay, so you like one resident goes to another state and they're now wearing a big hat because they're trying to fit in with Texans, right? It's kind of like me from one planet or galaxy dimension or whatever coming to another like location or something like that. If you think about it in that way, that broad sense, you know what I mean? It's like the concept of nature is not bound to Earth standards. It's bigger than that. But still, I wanted to be born based on Earth standards. I wanted a normal life, normal based on my standards. Like I've always believed that the mother, the father creates children. I don't know. In my heart, I'm always going to feel that way. You know what I mean? But I do appreciate the fact that my father loved me throughout all these different lives, that he wanted to bring me back. But it was something that was naive on his part, okay? Because it caused a lot of problems. But it also brought a lot of enlightenment, too. Okay, so the maze, I've had this message before, but I wrote it down. And I'm repeating it again. It's a maze that you must grow through. Being on earth is a chance for advancement towards spiritual growth, us leveling up. Okay? So what we learn, what we acquire, what we demonstrate, how we live our lives, how we seek balance here on this, in this existence, okay, where we are now, helps us evolve in the spiritual realm. Okay? So when you gain knowledge, that's important. Knowledge is valuable. Understanding things is the most important thing that you can ever have. You know what I mean? Some people think, okay, what are riches? What is wealth? Yes, wealth is the material, right? But you can't obtain the wealth without understanding how to obtain it. It's knowledge, right? Knowledge is the key to everything, right? And sometimes knowledge is obtained outside of the system. Okay, and unfortunately, the system is very strange. Okay, like the system to me, from my perspective, and a lot of other perspectives, I mean, other people's perspective, because they agree with me. A lot of people have noticed this too. There's a lot of like imbalances, suffering, and someone of my intellectual abilities can easily see that. So the sad part about clones who are what they call, I'm not trying to be arrogant when I say this, when I say superior, yeah, obviously the reason why I was targeted is because I was made fun of, because they're like, oh, you're so great, let me prove this to you. You can do this. It's like this nanny poo-poo go type bullshit, right? Is what they were like really pulling on me. And it was continuous. And this is how they perceived me before I even thought, oh, I didn't realize I was that cool, right? But I appreciate that in a weird, sick, weird, twisted kind of way. I'm sorry that all of this happened, but I can't deal with it. My point is that my existence is a spiritual one, and it always has been. And that there are signs of this since I was a kid. You know what I mean? And when I think about it, it's like bringing the whole upside down thing is that since I was a kid, while I was being bullied for reading things like the Bible, people were persecuting me, calling me evil, you know what I mean? Ostracizing me, bullying me, or pretending to be my friend. I had a fake family. My family would laugh at me for trying to understand the nature of the things, the mysteries of God. And I was the one who was being hated on. Strange, isn't it? But we do live in an upside down world. This world is upside down. Why? Because this is hell. You know? So, next one. I wanted to address the moral issues of cloning. On my free time, like when I'm laying in bed, I've been doing some reading, mostly about, cloning. You know what I mean? That's basically what I've been reading about. Um, Mainly because you want to know who else is a clone out there, and it's silly, but it's one of those subjects that I'm not obsessed with. I'm more obsessed about finding out about past lives, okay? But this one particular day, I figured I'm going to go ahead and show some interest in this topic. So I was reading about some of the expression, the issues that they brought up, okay? And some of these things I have felt myself, okay? So I'm going to share some of the notes that I took from this particular article because I thought it was important. They mentioned the violations of human rights and dignity that human clones have been made. Okay. Let me see. Okay. It's a violation of human rights and dignity. Human cloning has been made illegal in all countries in Europe and has been condemned by the Council of Europe in 1986. Okay. When I think of the right, the abuse that clones could be subjected to, I'm a good example of that. Okay, one of the reasons why is, clones are looked upon as different, just like adopted kids are looked upon as different in general, but clones are a little bit different, mainly because there's always going to be a social, moral, and like possibly religious issue that comes with cloning. Some people are not comfortable with that, even though um, whether you're cloned from a human or you got like alien DNA, it's just the way that it is, okay? Because it's always going to cause controversy, people feeling uncomfortable about the issue, whatever, okay? And that causes a lot of um, issues, I mean, obviously, right? Um, if a clone, if they clone, like for example, a child, the expectations, like for example, you lose a child, right? God forbid something like that happens, right? But if you lost a child, right, and like you lost it around 3 years old, the child passed away or whatever, and you decided to bring in a copy, like for example, you have the ability to clone that child, okay? The expectations on that child would be very great, and they would put a lot of stress on that child because they are expecting an exact copy. And even though that spirit may live within that child, anytime that child changes direction or whatever, they're going to be upset with that child, mainly because they want that child. It's like they don't understand that it's a different experience. Like the child has grown, it's a different age. It may now be in a completely different environment. People change based on their environments. I mean, there's a lot of different things to be taken into consideration when you think about cloning. There's definitely a consequence to that. You know what I mean? And like I said, because it's not like natural birth, people feel kind of distance towards it. They do. Not everybody does, but it's a shared feeling. Some people don't care. Some people are going to be like, well, I don't understand it. You know what I mean? But it's going to cause certain consequences, especially in a family unit. So this notes that I took was like, sorry, the huge environment. Okay, I did think about that. Okay, now here's some of the pros that I wrote about cloning. Okay, pros is that it could possibly resolve infertility issues. Like there's some people who can't have children by the natural way. They can't do it. A clone would solve that problem. They could find another way of having that child if they wanted to do that. Um, what else did I write down? Could eliminate. Um, it could allow great minds to contribute to society. Obviously, you don't have to be a clone to have a great mind, but there are clones such as myself, who do have the ability to recognize problems, could solve problems, could present inventions, whatever. But like I said, we live in a very structured, um, upside down type of society where, you know, education doesn't really necessarily have to make sense. It doesn't even have to tell you the truth, you know, because obviously history's bullshit, right? But they, it's frustrating. But if it was where cloning became normalized, okay, that would be the good part about it would be is that it would allow, you know, great minds to contribute to society. Um, the cons about it, I was thinking, would be it would change the perception of of our individuality. You know, many clones such as myself do get harassed because there's people around them that feel as though they are too cloney. You know, they're too cloney. Like, you know, obviously the fact that I like dress nice, for example. I dress nice because it's just who I am, right? It looks different. Like, you know, you go out into a crowd. I remember my brother used to notice this when I was younger, and he would make comments about this when I was a teenager. He's like, "You're the only normal looking person at that place." Like, he would notice it. Like, I stood out, even though like there might have been other people of color in the same building. Mind you, at that time there was very few in Lancaster, but still, there's something about me that looks different. You know what I mean? It's because we are who we are. You know what I mean? You could try to dim it down, but we would it would not change anything because we would still excel in something else. You know what I mean? I think that's one issue that I dealt with myself. Also, we do bring a lot of our old lives, you know, if or personalities, whatever, into this existence. You know what I mean? So, like, obviously, you know, the things that I like, the things that I do, my hobbies, my habits, are based on a collection of past lives. You know what I mean? And when you deal with someone like that, you bring in like someone like myself, who in the past must have gained a lot of knowledge. You're placed in a family that is just quote unquote normal, and you're going to get scapegoated. You know what I mean? You're going to get scapegoated. It's very difficult for clones to find a fulfillment in life, whether you have alien origins or not. Um, what else? Oh, yeah, the exploitation. I think it leads to exploitation mainly because, you know, like I do believe that my, for example, and this is not me digging, and I'm not even trying. I'm saying this without any emotion, okay? When I think about my ex-siblings, you know, one of the reasons why they exploited me in the manner that they did is because they didn't realize that, yes, just because I may not be what they perceive to be or normal human, okay, didn't mean that I did not have the desire to live, the desire to make my own decisions, the right to make my decisions, the right to live, the right to do anything. Because they don't see themselves the same way. They don't see they see me as different than them. Okay? But I have emotions. You know what I mean? I could get sad. They think that I don't have the emotion. They don't, or they think that I'm dumb, or they don't think that they either think you're too smart to where it doesn't matter, or they think you might be dumb. You know, because you're somebody who lived in the 1800s, thinking that you can live in 1990. You know what I mean? They think that something is wrong with you when in fact there's not. So whatever the reason is, they take advantage of that person. And this seems to be a very, I don't know, it seems to be like a matter of someone who deals with, such as in my case, somebody who deals with a lot of narcissism and people who are extremely abusive. So you would become a target, easily target as a clone. This is one of the biggest reasons why I had to deal with this sort of monstrous. Of course, there's a lot of fueled mixed stories about my existence. You know, apparently that people thought that I was a bad person, even though they never cracked open a Bible. It never even occurred to them. You know what I mean? But yet they were batting me upside the head, hating on me, doing everything they possibly could. We live in a very mixed up world. But the exploitation, the abuse that a clone suffers is it's bad. Okay, so obviously that would be one of the cons about cloning. Also, what is there something else I wanted to say in this? I'm looking over my notes here. Always have spirit. Yeah, yeah, it does lead to exploitation. I mentioned that. And being human commentary too. Yeah. So yeah, the exploitation, the abuse that clones deal with, not having any family roots. Most of the time you are the center of malicious gossip and smear campaigns. You know what I mean? And people have very little respect for who you are. They just don't give a shit. You know what I mean? So I've dealt with evil, like I said, all my life, everywhere. It's been everywhere in my life. So I feel as though my mission in life is complete. Meaning, like, I came here, I wanted to see what life on Earth was all about. You know what I mean? What is this so-called life that people live? And it's garbage. It's garbage. You know what I mean? So, hey. What else? Is there something else I wanted to mention? Oh! I wrote these notes. I was doing some digging into some old writings back because I was preparing a lesson on my Patreon channel. And God knows, I hope they get this whole thing straightened out because they have wasted enough of my time. I'm not talking about Patreon. We know we're talking about. Anyway, so I wrote down this on this date, November 1st, 2017. It's a past life reading. Okay, so I was just kind of playing around trying to figure out who I was in the past life. Now, mind you, I didn't find out I was Prince Alamehu until last fall. Okay, so it looks as though I used to do this reading, I used a deck of regular cards. Now, I do have tarot decks and whatever, and the lesson that I'm actually teaching and preparing is on cartomancy, right? And I'm basically going over certain divination techniques with my audience. I am not proficient in tarot, but I do have a few decks, okay? So this particular reading was a past life reading, and I found out where I was born. I was born in Africa. That didn't tell me a whole lot. But at least I knew that, okay? Also, it said that my occupation was apprentice work. Now, I don't know. The prince died around the 1800s. Maybe he may have kind of meddled around in different shops. I don't know. I will find out more. But I was just kind of going over these notes. What else does it say? Yeah, that was it. You know what I mean? But I do think it's kind of interesting to know that I've been like kind of looking into this over the years, and I didn't know, but I did find out I was born in Africa in 2017. Find out that I am Prince Alamehu, who was moved from Africa to Europe, right? So that's interesting to me. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap up this video. I do appreciate you guys for watching and supporting me. You know, let's hope that we get things straightened out with Patreon. I really want to move on from this issue. It's been very, very difficult for me. Your support means the world to me, and I'm going to wrap this one up. Take care. Bye-bye.